Kim Ji-woo was a game director turned immortal Ice Sky Archmage. It started when he got summoned to Arzelan. What followed was a long, brutal life of fighting enemies just to survive. But Ji-woo eventually became the immortal master of the magic tower, powerful enough to cast an entire web of magic circles at once. Even that was not enough. Arzelan was being consumed by something called the erosion, and the whole world was heading for ruin. To save it, Ji-woo needed a massive number of people from modern Earth, just like him. Summoning them was easy enough for an archmage. The problem was finding a reward worth risking their lives for. So he combined his game director experience with his magic and came up with one very questionable solution. Soon, parties of supposed adventurers were charging across Arzelan toward its cities. One massive horned warrior stopped the group to appreciate the view. Naturally, it made him want a drink, so the mauve-haired brewer offered him some homemade fruit wine. One taste had the big guy asking if it was brewed with poison berries. The brewer called it killer, and yeah, that sounded pretty literal. Nearby, an orange-haired musician found inspiration for some bizarre heavy metal, while his bald companion and every exhausted traveler around them begged for silence. These people were actually Earthlings, but Ji-woo had disguised Arzelan as a virtual reality game. That way, the blonde commander could lead them against the entities destroying the world without anyone demanding a conventional reward. The Earthlings simply believed they were players. With VR headsets on, they geeked out over the realistic graphics and sensations. All Ji-woo had to do was point them toward the game's ending, and they would happily battle the forces of ruin. As the next threat approached, the blonde commander ordered everyone to get ready. A huge black sphere appeared overhead, leaking liquid-like shadows toward the fighters below. Then we see a purple goblin. Then hordes of red-eyed purple goblins poured across the walls and rooftops with crude weapons raised. The commander and his two companions faced the sphere as gigantic smoke-bodied entities rose around it, screaming like pure nightmare fuel. The black-haired hunter captain just grinned. He ordered his hunters to prepare and promised them a feast of goblin meat. His men were already debating goblin potato stew and pork belly, because apparently fear was not invited. On the main front, the blonde commander raised his sword. He pointed the entire force toward the light, and the soldiers and adventurers answered by raising weapons charged with golden energy. With his white shield ready, the commander took the lead while the black-haired archer and muscular red-haired axewoman backed him up. Then he gave the rallying cry, "For Arzelan!" Behind this supposed fantasy world, a server cabinet blazed with golden energy as digital shapes floated around its hardware. The interface loaded Arzelan Saga, Seti Bend as the starting land. For modern Earthlings hung motionless upside down beneath narrow blue-white beams. Revealing the machinery behind Jin was little deception. As a green goblin commander yelled for the attack, human archers fired at the glowing dark sphere, and the armed purple goblins charged from the other side. Back in Arzelan, the corruption keeps swallowing everything in its path. Ji-woo blasts the creatures apart with enough magic to light up the entire wasteland. But even Arzelan's summoned Earthling can't keep this up forever. No matter how many monsters he destroys, more close in from every direction, the corruption is steadily consuming the world, and roughly 90% of Arzelan is already gone. Only a few kingdoms remain, protected behind Jinwoo's barrier. The problem is, the mana crystals powering it have 3 years left at best. Once that barrier drops, the surviving population gets served to the monsters. High Elf Iris finds Jinwoo and starts addressing him by every grand title he owns. Master of the Magic Tower, Immortal Archmage, Lord of Rain Zord. Jinwoo couldn't care less when the world still looks like this. Iris acknowledges him, but the conversation immediately turns into another lecture about confronting the corruption directly. Jinwoo asks why she's nagging him the second she arrives, so Iris explains that an urgent summons came through despite his seclusion. Unfortunately, he has no solution to offer. He's simply the only person who can enter corrupted territory safely, which is why everyone keeps calling him. Even Arzelan's strongest natives can't stay there long before the corruption starts shaking their souls apart. Jinwoo is immune only because his soul came from Earth. It actually resists the corruption and converts that energy into soul power, making him even stronger. Still, what is one OP mage supposed to accomplish alone? Jinwoo jokes that 1,000,000 fighters might work, but Iris says anyone else with his immunity would need to be a legendary hero. With nothing else to add, Jinwoo heads deeper into the forest, and tells Iris to report his absence to the summoners again. Before leaving, she warns him not to abuse his resurrection just because he can revive whenever another body is available. She even threatens to remodel his next body into a pretty boy. Jinwoo says a pretty girl works too, which earns exactly the reaction you'd expect. Iris orders him to get some real rest, and he gives her the least convincing agreement possible. Honestly, rest has never been his thing. Back on Earth, he survived brutal overtime by treating Americanos like blood transfusions. Then Arzilan summoned him, and he spent decades building the magic tower and beating back the corruption. At no point did this man take an actual break, but with the barrier set to collapse in 3 years and Arzilan following right behind it, even Jinwoo has reached his limit. So for once, he closes his eyes, lets everything go, and decides to rest. That's when a strange light forms inside his soul. Blue-white energy erupts through his body before he can even understand what's happening, then explodes upward in a massive pillar of power. Jinwoo can only stare as spiritual flames gather around him. The aura carries absolute authority, and he realizes his soul has finally awakened as a transcendent. After decades of forcing it with no success, he reached this state by clearing his mind. Of course it worked like that. Now he wants to see what his new power can do. One test later, his staff tears open an enormous circular gateway. A system notice identifies it as the Gate of Souls, a permanent connection to his soul's homeland that he can cross in spiritual form. His soul immediately leaves his slumped body. The gate can also transmit magic, transport physical objects depending on their size, and upgrade using soul power. With a dark-clad companion nearby, Jinwoo activates the passage and begins his departure. The Gate of Souls opens completely, and Jinwoo focuses before passing straight through. On the other side, his spirit emerges above a modern city full of people filming the glowing man in the sky. He recognizes Seoul and wonders if a full century has passed. But the technology barely looks different from his era. Even the smartphones seem familiar, so either the dimensions were completely disconnected or the gate sent him backward through time. First things first, Jinwoo races across the city to check his old home. He reaches the right area, only to find unfamiliar buildings where his house should be. Apparently, Kim Jinwoo and every trace of his old life have vanished from history. He can't mourn for long. Earth's mana is so thin that staying in spirit form could make him dissipate, so he starts searching for a soulless body. That search sends him flying across the city at full speed, until a powerful supernatural presence draws him toward a huge mansion. Jinwoo slips inside to investigate. There, he finds an unconscious young man dying in a private hospital room. The place is packed with medical equipment, while the patient's devastated family gathers beside the bed. The doctor apologizes to the chairman, and admits they've done everything possible. The old man breaks down, begging Jinwoo not to leave him. Watching from the bedside, Jinwoo wonders who this patient is and why his body gives off such a powerful aura. Then he recognizes the face. This is Lee Jinwoo, the Osun Group chairman's youngest grandson. He's a famous genius with several doctorates from elite overseas universities, though his terrible health was public knowledge. This is far beyond poor health, though. Lee's soul is completely gone, and his body only has a few hours left. That makes it the perfect vessel. Their names are nearly identical, nobody else is occupying it, and Jinwoo's magic can repair the damage. A blue-haired spectral figure channels his soul power into the empty body, flooding it with dense blue-white energy. The family watches as that power circulates through every part of him, and Jinwoo's new eyes snap open. He sits up as the people beside him freeze in shock. The possession worked. While Jinwoo tests his hands and wonders how this happened, his father calls his name. The man immediately pulls him into a hug, convinced everything had been over and wondering if this is a dream. The rest of the family piles in, crying and celebrating his recovery as a miracle. They keep checking whether anything hurts until Jinwoo admits that being crushed by the entire family is his biggest problem. Someone finally orders everyone back. Later, he collapses alone on a huge bed with a phone and cat plush beside him. His new family is loud, chaotic, and completely exhausting. Still, they're wealthy, close, and genuinely care about him. Living here might not be so bad, but Arzilan is still racing toward destruction. The corruption keeps producing monsters endlessly, and its hidden core remains out of reach. Jinwoo even considers sending in a tank or armored vehicle. Then he realizes even a nuclear bomb probably wouldn't solve it. The monsters will resurrect until the buried core is destroyed, and transporting weapons that large into Arzilan may be impossible anyway. With no decent answer, Jinwoo shifts around and notices a handheld console nearby. He decides to clear his head with a game, picks up the console, and switches it on. The screen loads Legend of the Dragon 7, a fantasy game Jinwoo approved back when he was still a terrifyingly strict game director. Its story is basic genre stuff. Become a hero, gather companions, save the world. Somehow, it still has charm. That's when the answer hits him. Arzelan doesn't need one more hero. It needs millions of them, enough to reclaim corrupted territory faster than the monsters can take it back. Right on cue, the game gives Linka an SSR 5-star mage ticket and asks whether he wants to summon a second hero. Jinwoo selects yes and gives the command. The console flashes, and Jinwoo suddenly freezes as the idea fully clicks. He drops the console, raises his hands, and issues a new order. Summon Earthling Hero. Iris kneels before Jinwoo and the entire magic tower, introducing him with every grand title imaginable, until he tells her to dial it back. She confirms that all 1,310 disciples he requested are assembled. But before they begin, something is clearly bothering her. She wants to know why everyone around him is dressed so strangely. The aides call it role-playing, which only confuses her more. Jinwoo knows this whole performance is meant to save Arzelan, but he stays in character and pretends he has no clue what she means. With that settled, he announces that he recently awakened. He can now open the Gate of Souls and contact other worlds, so the disciples immediately celebrate their master's breakthrough. More importantly, the gate lets him summon otherworldly heroes who share his immunity to corruption. He orders everyone to suspend their current duties. Their new job is making sure those heroes can fight properly in Arzelan, though nobody knows what that actually involves. For their first assignment, he hands over a mana stone containing footage of himself and his aides acting out a battle. They need to make it look majestic and divine, add more skeletons, and upgrade the battlefield. Oh, and the finished video still has to fit inside one tiny mana stone. Naturally, the disciple holding it looks horrified. The mages nearly collapse trying to compress everything, but Jinwoo refuses to hear that it cannot be done. As far as he is concerned, making the impossible possible is literally a mage's job. While they struggle to stabilize the recording, their matching blue robes remind him of something. So he transforms all 1,310 disciples into blue and white cat mascots based on the plushie from his room. He officially names them the Magimons, leaving the poor mages wondering whether this transformation should even be possible. Jinwoo claims they resemble an earth creature that grants wishes, then orders his little Magimons to grant his too. Exhausted and deeply defeated, they obey. With the demonstration handled, the operation shifts back to Seoul. Now dressed for business in Lee Jinwoo's body, Jinwoo waits beside a sedan with a large equipment case. Thanks to the Magimons, the video was finished quickly. The flattened cat mages would probably describe it differently. Then a massive stranger approaches and greets him as CEO Lee Jinwoo. The man introduces himself as Secretary Kim Hansu, and is extremely enthusiastic about meeting him. Hansu explains that Chairman Lee Woon-sung assigned him to the new CEO, and Jinwoo accepts him as his secretary. Once Hansu confirms that the staff are waiting upstairs, they head inside. At FS Games, head of development Han Yong-sun sits alone with his phone, already expecting the worst. The latest article calls FS Games a chaebol playground that hit rock bottom after losing any hope of a successful domestic release. Still, their incoming CEO is supposedly a genius who earned 5 doctorates in his early 20s. Han cannot understand why someone who just survived a near-fatal condition would take over this sinking company, unless he plans to revive it the same way. Before he can think further, Hansu throws open the door and loudly announces the CEO. Jinwoo enters ahead of him with the entire room watching. Han and the nearby employees turn toward the doorway in surprise. The moment Han recognizes Lee Jinwoo, the young CEO's sheer presence nearly overwhelms him. Jinwoo takes the head seat, introduces himself as Lee Jinwoo, and decides that should be enough. Then he skips the formalities and starts the meeting. Ryan's Saga shut down last month, and their next game burned through 30 billion won before collapsing ahead of launch. To make things worse, the entire new team defected to NFSoft. Han bows over the table and takes full responsibility. He assumes this disastrous record means everyone is about to be fired and the studio dissolved. Instead, Jinwoo says he likes it. Since everything has already fallen apart, they can clear it out and start fresh. After the initial shock, even the employees admit he has a point. Jinwoo then has Hansu distribute the proposal he brought. Its title is Project Arzelan. He explains that it is a VR game proposal covering the setting, main scenario, and basic concept art, then asks for their honest opinions. The staff quickly praise the solid lore, distinct concepts, and medieval world that somehow still feels modern. Han likes the idea, but the required headset is a problem. VR is not mainstream, hardware sales are limited, and full immersion could trigger serious backlash. Jinwoo calmly tells him the headsets will sell so fast that getting one will be the real problem. When Han doubts him, Jinwoo slams a hand onto the table and makes it clear he means every word. This VR game he designed is going to turn the world upside down. Since seeing is believing, he asks for the largest empty room available. Han offers the cleared motion capture studio, so Jinwoo orders every employee to gather there. Soon, the whole company is packed into the studio. The employees whisper that their new CEO may be a genius, but he is definitely eccentric, and some wonder if this Osung Group project is a scam. Once Han confirms everyone is present, Jinwoo takes out a glossy black cube and tells him to kill the lights. Han moves the crowd back while Jinwoo places the cube in the center of the dark studio. He puts one hand on it and begins the demonstration. The cube unfolds into a complex device, flooding the room with blue-white light and geometric projections. Energy arcs across the studio as columns of light and a circular grid surround the employees. A moment later, the empty room becomes a bright field of grass and flowers. Han shields his eyes, completely baffled by the magic circle and actual grass beneath him. Then the glare fades, and he notices something much bigger. A colossal red dragon appears overhead, sending the entire crowd running for their lives. Han and a blonde employee panic while Jinwoo stands behind them looking amused. To him, this nightmare fuel is just a simple hologram. When Han points out the entire landscape around them, Jinwoo clarifies that everything here is holographic virtual reality. Spreading his arms, he formally introduces the world of Arzilan. Beyond the meadow are cities, mountains, flying beasts, and monsters large enough to make a raid boss look reasonable. Han asks whether they are all standing inside Jinwoo's game, and Jinwoo confirms the simulation is exactly that convincing. Then he snaps his fingers and moves them into the main story. The meadow darkens as an enormous shadow spreads beneath the employees. A black sphere eclipses the sun, turning the sky red beneath gathering dark clouds. Next, a gigantic skeletal hand tears through the ground and shatters the earth. Two floating spellcasters emerge in green and purple flames, ordering the mortals to tremble as darkness corrupts them all. The purple-hooded necromancer raises one bony hand and commands its servants to feast. Armed undead charge as the employees flee. At this point, even Han is no longer sure the attack is only a hologram. Jinwoo moves in front of the crowd in a flash and orders everyone to stay behind him. Right on cue, the female Knight of Light dives toward them at full speed. Above her, the Saintess extends one hand and unleashes a golden blessing, assuring everyone they are safe. Golden light sweeps across the battlefield in massive waves. Floating inside a radiant halo, the Saintess declares that the light will protect them while the Knight watches below. The employees erupt into cheers for the Saintess's blessing and the female Knight of Light's rescue, while Jinwoo stays quiet among them. Watching them celebrate, he hides a smile. They are completely immersed, exactly as he expected. He lifts his gaze with a calculating smirk. Just as planned, with the demo hitting its climax, Jinwoo lets the final act begin. The skeletal necromancer rises through green flames, thrilled to have so many new test subjects. He summons his undead army and orders them to start chewing through the crowd. That brings in the female Knight of Light, with the Saintess ready behind her. The Saintess calls for everyone's strength and asks them to offer up the Heart of Light. The employees are fully invested by now, so they raise their hands and pour golden energy into her. All that power transfers into the Knight's sword until the whole thing crackles with golden lightning. She launches over the undead and lines up one massive finishing blow. With a shout of, "For Arzilan!" she comes down like an orbital strike. The battlefield erupts in golden fire, scattering skeletons and weapons everywhere. The necromancer takes the attack point blank and gets completely overwhelmed. He crashes down screaming, with only a few sparks left around his battered body. Desperate, he reaches toward the Lord of Erosion and begs to be saved. The answer is brutal. The erosion has no use for weak trash, and violet power starts swallowing him. A black-purple void drags the screaming necromancer inside. When he returns, he is erosion-infused and blasting through his own skeleton army, which even his minions realize is pretty messed up. Then he turns toward the spectators and declares that they are next. Black-purple tendrils rip through the presentation space, sending every employee running. Han Yong-sun shields his head and screams for help while the blonde employee yells for everyone to move. Right before the attack reaches them, the entire projection shuts off, leaving them cowering in the normal studio. The staff slowly recover across the floor, still trying to process what just happened. Jinwoo stands calmly by the controls and asks how they liked the presentation. Then he reveals that the whole nightmare was just his concept trailer. The employees immediately mob him with questions about the hologram. its development, and whether they can see the Saintess again, forcing him to calm everyone down. Han Yong-sun adjusts his glasses and apologizes for losing control. It was his first real taste of virtual reality. Still, he worries that showing them technology this valuable could expose a major Osung secret. Even a rumor about this game would be worth a fortune. Jinwoo points out that none of them believed it before seeing it anyway, so he tells them to go outside and spread the word that FS Games is making a VR game. Han has to admit he has a point. With that settled, Jinwoo asks if they are willing to join him, and the entire team is ready to follow. Their first order is to scrap conventional development, rebuild from zero with the new engine, and let the support AI teach them the unfamiliar tech. Jinwoo says they are going to conquer gaming, then upgrades the goal to conquering global culture. Casual little ambition there. He calls on them to write history, and the staff answer with raised fists and a massive cheer. Soon, a blinder post starts hyping FS Games as the future hope of Korean gaming, or apparently Korea itself. The leak claims its secret project is full virtual reality, praises President Lee Jae-woo for making every gamer's dream real, and calls it a bigger opportunity than Bitcoin. Naturally, the comments tear it apart. People call the poster insane, say FS Games is finished, and accuse another chaebol heir of turning a company into his personal scam playground. Back in his private lab, Ji-woo reads the backlash and notes that nobody believes him, exactly as expected. Then his phone rings, and Grandpa is on the line. The chairman asks whether he saw the articles. Ji-woo did, though he could not be bothered to finish them. His grandfather is ready to unleash the legal team on everyone attacking him, but Ji-woo shuts that down because the controversy is free publicity. The chairman accepts that and asks whether the actual business is going well, even with articles questioning whether FS Games can regain public trust. Ji-woo says development is smooth and shows him the finished blue-faced VR prototype. More importantly, the fishing feature is finally working. So Ji-woo asks whether Grandpa likes fishing, prompting a proud story about catching house-sized sharks and even fighting a marlin. Ji-woo invites him out, but the chairman refuses because his back has been weak, and he plans to rest at home. That works too. Ji-woo grabs the headset and says he is coming over with something special. That night, he arrives at the chairman's residence. His grandfather examines the headset and confirms that this is Jinwoo's homemade VR device. Ji-woo helps him put it on, tells him to lie back, and promises a surprise. The chairman only planned to humor him, but the fit and design are already better than Osung Electronics equipment, which makes him quietly proud. Once he is comfortable, Ji-woo asks if he is ready, and Grandpa agrees to try it. Ji-woo tells him they will meet in Arzilan, and activates the headset. Blue circuitry and lights sweep over the chairman as the connection begins. His eyes open again with digital squares fading around him. Now standing in a forest, he looks at his youthful hands and wonders where the hell he ended up. He moves deeper in and quickly realizes his entire body feels younger and stronger. That is when Ji-woo appears and welcomes Grandpa to Arzilan. Beside the portal, he explains that they are inside the virtual reality game he has been developing. Then Ji-woo brings out a mirror, revealing a body modeled after his grandfather in his 40s. He could not go younger because there was not enough data. The chairman grabs his head in disbelief, while Ji-woo confirms that this very real-feeling world makes him its first official user. Touching his younger face, Grandpa bursts out laughing. The body feels authentic, and every old ache is gone. He says this is beyond surprising and demands to know when Ji-woo created something on an entirely different level. Ji-woo starts explaining that he was actually conscious during his vegetative state. According to him, he spent that time buried in thought until countless ideas came together, the same way he had produced impossible-looking concepts before. Before Grandpa can dig deeper, Ji-woo grabs his hand and starts dragging him somewhere else. Their destination is a huge turquoise lake, because of course this whole setup was for fishing. At the rocky shore, even the chairman has to stop and admire the place. Ji-woo prepares their gear by using a rod to form a massive swirling wall of magical water. He hands Grandpa a fishing rod and explains that the mirror was magic too. Eventually, he wants this magic simple enough for his grandfather to use himself. The chairman tests the rod and approves. It even feels like one he used before. Then he throws a powerful overhead cast and tells Ji-woo to watch what his grandfather can do. The float hits the lake with a sharp splash. Almost instantly, the water explodes and the rod bends hard. Something has already taken the bait. Grandpa plants his feet and pulls with both hands, shocked that the creature has the strength of a giant. His arm swells with power as the struggle gets even worse. but Grandpa decides he is stronger and starts hauling the monster straight out of the lake. Up comes a gigantic blue armored fish, which was definitely not what he expected to catch. The thing crashes onto the shore while both of them stare at it. Jinwoo calmly applauds the enormous catch as his grandfather asks what just happened. Then Grandpa notices his trembling hand and realizes this body is overflowing with unfamiliar strength. He had already accepted aging and the fact that time never stops. Now, with one clenched fist, he can feel the vitality he thought was gone forever. The chairman throws his head back laughing while a soaked Jinwoo watches with a satisfied smile. Jinwoo remembers that the earthlings he brings into Arzilan are supposed to protect it, though clearly that is not the only benefit this world can offer. He decides this result is not bad and offers to photograph Grandpa with his catch. The chairman immediately demands a picture. They bind the enormous fish and get into position behind it. For the photo, Grandpa sits right on top, flexes both arms, and proudly declares that he is brimming with power. Back at the campsite, Kim Ji-woo and his grandfather roast the giant fish they just caught. The chairman is blown away that he can actually taste the meat and feel full, so Jinwoo tells him to eat as much as he wants. Their meal gets interrupted when someone approaches through the grass. Two armed locals are watching them, and their bearded captain says he has never seen either man around Rain Zord. Grandpa assumes another player logged in, but Jinwoo explains that these two are NPCs. Naturally, that means nothing to him. The archers find their strange language suspicious and decide to drag them before their lord. Before they can try, an unseen command freezes both men in place. Jinwoo projects a gigantic flame-covered version of himself and orders them to leave because he is meeting a VIP. The captain immediately recognizes his lord. Both archers run for their lives while apologizing. Grandpa figures the NPCs must have glitched, and Jinwoo casually agrees. Once that is handled, Grandpa asks about development. Jinwoo admits they only have a starter village, one city, and a hunting ground, so the chairman promises him complete financial backing. With Oh-sung behind the project, development can finally accelerate. Jinwoo thanks his grandfather and promises to give it everything he has. The chairman promptly puts the prototype headset back on and announces that he is keeping it for some very extensive adjustments. Back inside Arzilan, he suddenly claims his old body is failing, and he could die any day. Jinwoo points out that he was perfectly healthy besides one injury, but Grandpa keeps up the performance, and tells him to hurry up and grow old himself. Jinwoo gives in and lets him keep using the younger body until the server opens again. The delighted chairman proudly calls him his youngest grandson. With Chairman Lee Woon-sung's absolute support secured, development moves smoothly. The programmers refine quality-of-life systems that will help players adapt to the other world. Once they understand the magic engine, their work speed explodes. Tia's scenario gives them the opening storyline, while the art team builds the NPCs, their appearances, and all the lore behind them. That includes a polished model of Prince Leon, who instantly becomes an office favorite. Two employees gush over how handsome he is, and wish they could see him moving in person. That raises the obvious question. Will they actually meet Leon after logging into Arzilan? Han Yong-sun appears and reminds them that testing is currently restricted to directors and team leaders. The women fire back by asking whether he has stopped going home because he spends every day alone in the test room. Han insists it is strictly work. Sure. Right then, Jinwoo enters with Secretary Kim Han-soo and greets the whole office. He announces that the headset has officially passed its stability test. That means production is about to begin, and the staff erupts. Secretary Kim then hands the floor to Director Han for another important announcement. Han asks if everyone knows Universe Unpacked, Oh-sung Electronics showcase for its newest products. FS Games will be joining the event, which sends the excitement through the roof. Han reminds everyone how long they have endured people mocking the company and insulting its CEO. Now he promises those insults will turn into praise when Arzilan Saga conquers the global gaming market. Better yet, after the presentation, every employee will receive a top-tier headset for a large internal test. The office celebrates by chanting Lee Jinwoo's name over and over. In the middle of it, Ji-woo feels his phone vibrating and checks it. His grandfather has been spamming him about opening the server, even announcing that he is starting a vacation for it. The latest message says he is already heading to Jinwoo's office. That gets an immediate reaction. Jinwoo declares an urgent matter and sends everyone home early. Han volunteers for overtime anyway, prompting the women to complain that he is hogging all the work. Not long after, Universe Unpacked finally begins. The exhibition hall is packed with visitors, photographers, and cosplayers as everyone checks out the new products. Tech reviewer Handel is surprised to see FS Games there. He and his beanie-wearing partner suspect another VR headset, and Handel warns that advertising an ordinary model as true virtual reality would make the company look like a scam. FS Games has definitely captured attention, but his partner calls it potential career suicide because the public now expects the impossible. The doubt is fair. Existing headsets are bulky, short on battery, and starved for applications, while Oh-sung's last attempt already lost to American competitors. They take their seats and admit a massive upgrade could still save the presentation. Handel is already preparing a brutal review when the official event begins. The host introduces a special guest who will reveal Oh-sung's new business venture. Jinwoo steps into the spotlight as FS Games CEO Lee Jinwoo. The crowd immediately recognizes the Oh-sung family's famous genius, and he formally introduces himself. He starts by admitting that he has enjoyed all the memes and rumors, including the ones crediting him with inventions straight out of science fiction. His actual product may not reach that absurd level, but he guarantees it will completely satisfy their expectations. With that, he begins the presentation. Cyan energy floods the entire auditorium like a massive wave, sending the audience into a panic. The crowd suddenly finds itself surrounded by touchable ocean water, and wonders if this is some kind of four-dimensional effect. Jinwoo explains that humanity conquered the seas through tragedy and pain before eventually reaching land. The ocean becomes a vast desert as he traces humanity's journey across deserts, plains, and eternal snow. A violent blizzard and enormous frozen mountains follow while he talks about conquering the highest peaks through courage, endurance, and refusing to surrender to despair. Handel's companion catches the snow and realizes he can feel both its texture and its freezing temperature. As snow gathers around Jinwoo's fingers, he moves on to humanity conquering the sky, reaching the moon, and sending unmanned rovers to Mars. The audience is carried into a glowing solar system. Jinwoo admits that conquering the cosmos would be incredible, but humanity's physical limits make it nearly impossible with current technology. So are they simply born in an awkward era, too early to experience the romance of exploring space? Jinwoo refused to accept that. With a snap of his fingers, he reveals that he created an entirely new world for them to explore. Everyone lands in a rocky alien landscape beneath a crimson moon, with no clue where they have been taken. Then swarms of small pink creatures dive into the crowd, sending people running and ducking for cover. With the creatures circling behind him, Jinwoo extends a hand and begins his reveal. He presents Arzilan Saga, a fully immersive virtual reality world of hope filled with heroes, undead armies, and monsters on a ridiculous scale. Early access begins in 2 weeks, with 2,500 limited Soul Link headsets available immediately. Each dedicated South Korean headset costs 3.12 million won, and there will be no more than those 2,500 units. The internet instantly calls it a scam. Commenters accuse Jinwoo and Oh-sung of faking the footage and manipulating stock prices, though at least one person is tempted to buy. The outrage changes nothing. Handel checks the sales page and discovers that every headset is already gone. He managed to buy one himself and plans to unbox it when early access starts. His partner jokes that they will meet again in Arzilan or in court. Handel only asks what they will do if Arzilan is actually real. After thinking it over, his partner decides he will quit tech reviews and become a full-time Arzilan YouTuber. 2 weeks later, the launch day finally arrives in Arzilan. Back in his archmage body, Jiwoo opens his golden eyes. Standing alone with his staff, he announces that the heroes of Earth are finally coming. With launch right around the corner, Haggard starts rehearsing as the Avent Tavern owner, but the poor guy is visibly sweating through his welcome speech. The braided elf immediately stops the production. She tells him the acting is way too stiff and orders him to play the innkeeper like a proper loudmouth. He also needs an innkeeper belly, so the ridiculously shredded Haggard is sentenced to 6 meals a day. Next up is Thompson, who confirms he memorized the blacksmith scene and gets straight to work. His character casually claims his hand slipped, destroyed the customer's sword, and wasted every enhancement material. The elf loves it and asks for even more sarcasm. When someone asks how a 99% enhancement can still fail, she calls it immersive lore. The dark-haired observer calls it a gambling mechanic, and yeah, that is exactly the point. Jiwoo arrives with his staff, praises her work, and gets a respectful greeting from his NPC director. Since the heroes are almost here, he checks the magic tower's capacity. They can produce 10,000 bodies at once, but anything beyond that needs larger facilities. The real bottleneck is mana stones, and Jinwoo knows they need to solve that before his full plan can scale. They still need more troops against the corruption, but there is no reason to rush. Once the first heroes arrive, they can reclaim the infected land piece by piece. That hope is already changing Arzelan. Towns are lively again, and people who once expected extinction are finally acting like they have a future. Iris asks if anything else is missing, and Jinwoo brings up their last major problem. They still have nobody who can play Prince Leon. Jinwoo suggests grabbing any skilled knight, but Iris refuses. Leon is supposed to embody the holy sword and look devastatingly handsome while doing it. Their options are rough. One candidate looks like he has survived 40 years of war, while Rainsword's best-looking knight still has the stern face of somebody's commanding officer. Iris needs Leon to inspire the players, make them love Arzelan, and get them invested enough to genuinely hate the corruption. He is the emotional center of the whole operation, so Jinwoo starts searching for a clever workaround. Iris already has one. She walks off without explaining, leaving Jinwoo and the white-armored aide to follow. Her plan is to manufacture Leon's body and have Jinwoo control it himself. He is no sword master, but he understands swordsmanship well enough to fake the role. Jinwoo also suspects Iris has personal motives here. Still, the idea works. He starts suggesting they build the vessel from the concept art, only for Iris to get offended that he thinks she has not handled that already. With an extremely suspicious amount of satisfaction, she reveals that the body is finished and leads him away. Her workshop turns out to be packed with artificial bodies. Winged men, demon butlers, armored women, maids, animal ears, giant weapons, the full collector's edition. The deeper they go, the more dolls they find. Jinwoo is impressed by the number, but the whole place is deeply unsettling, and even Iris looks nervous. Then she proudly shows him a cat-eared toddler version of himself, specifically designed to fit perfectly in her arms. The braided elf squeezes its soft cheeks and asks him to transfer into it immediately. Iris proudly calls those cheeks the main feature. Jinwoo firmly refuses. When the elf hugs the doll and promises to pamper him, he points out that this is exactly the problem. At that distance, he would probably die from suffocation. Thankfully, Iris moves on to the actual Prince Leon body, hidden beneath a red cloth on a raised chair. She tells Jinwoo to prepare himself, which only makes him more wary. Iris confidently claims she finally achieved the results she wanted. Then she tears away the covering and unveils what she calls an extraordinary divine beauty. For once, the dramatic reveal actually leaves both of them stunned. The exhausted braided elf celebrates her masterpiece. She spent a month without rest building Leon from dragon bones and synthetic muscles infused with melted erosion material, giving him absurd physical specs. She even paid for his black and gold equipment herself and hired 12 dwarf artisans to forge it from Lord Helbai's scales. Apparently, the colossal dragon donated those scales willingly. Jinwoo finds that claim about as believable as it sounds. With Leon fully equipped and holding Jinwoo's staff, Iris suggests testing whether the magical connection works. Jinwoo links successfully, and Leon's body erupts with blue-white lightning and magical flames. The vessel can channel his power perfectly. Back on Earth, Arzelan's saga is 10 minutes from launch, and Seon announces that she bought the standard Soul Link headset. The 3 million subscriber streamer presents the Cyan visor to her audience while chat debates whether they should buy one too. She considered the Pro model, but spending extra on a possible scam seemed a little reckless. Her viewers are not convinced the standard version is real either. Once the visor is on, Seon discovers streaming mode puts chat directly in front of her eyes. That alone could be useful for normal live streams. The countdown hits its final second, and she realizes it is officially 10 o'clock. Login opens with instructions to sit comfortably or lie down before connecting. Seon alerts the stream while chat keeps questioning whether any of this will work. She decides they are about to find out if this is real VR or one massive scam. Nervous but committed, she presses the login control. Blue-white energy instantly erupts around Seon and her chair. The light completely overwhelms her vision, and her confusion turns into a full scream. Inside Arzelan's summoning chamber, the female Knight of Light announces the first hero's arrival and orders the Magic Tower disciples into position. Seon wakes against a field of stars, rubbing her eye while she recovers from the transfer. Now barefoot inside a space filled with glowing interface rings, she tries to figure out where she landed. Then her chat windows appear, and Seon excitedly confirms the impossible. She is actually inside virtual reality. She quickly recognizes the area as character customization and reaches for the holographic avatar interface. Her race options are human, elf, dwarf, and orc. Naturally, she picks elf and immediately starts pushing the chest slider upward. Once she finishes, transfer energy drops her new avatar onto a forest path. Seon excitedly checks out her blonde elf body, only for the system to label her an anonymous elf with reduced agility from an overdeveloped upper body. Choices have consequences. Chat instantly praises the result while calling her out for abusing the sliders. She follows the path toward a distant settlement, wondering if this is really Arzilan. The sheer realism wins her over in seconds. Seon is already declaring her love for the place while Chat loses it with her. Once the excitement settles slightly, she realizes she has no idea where to go, just as an armored stranger approaches. He points her toward the starter village event, and Seon turns to thank him. Seeing that she is lost, he politely offers to escort her. Then the impossibly handsome knight introduces himself as Prince Leon. At Avent's gate, the guard welcomes Seon as a hero and asks for her name. Figuring this is the username prompt, she proudly goes with Habiol. The name registers, along with a trait cutting her agility because she went completely overboard on the avatar's upper body. Still, Habiol is official, so she celebrates. The guard finds her weirdly natural and asks if she is a player, only to repeat the exact same welcome. Yeah, definitely an NPC. She asks if he hands out quests, and he praises how eager she is to start doing hero work. Instead, he directs her toward Avent's massive adventurers guild, and she heads off after thanking him. Her chat immediately asks about that handsome guy from earlier and starts demanding she find him again. Naturally, Leon comes straight to mind. He disappeared right after escorting her to the village, and since he looked nothing like a player character, she assumes he must be an NPC too. So while crossing Avent's busy plaza, Habiol decides that clearing quests will probably make their paths cross again. High above the city, Ji-woo is already pleased. Iris is going to love hearing that his pretty boy project worked. With that confirmed, his eyes flare with soul fire as he starts checking the new arrivals for useful traits. These traits are powers born from each earthling's soul, shaped by everything they have done in life. Players cannot see them on their status screens, but choosing a matching ability can make that trait grow absurdly fast. Unfortunately, almost every new hero Ji-woo scans lands at rank D or E. Then one result makes him stop. Habiol has A rank affinity, letting her connect with people and even beasts that have completely lost their minds. It makes sense. Seon spent years managing millions of viewers as the veteran streamer Habiol, basically power leveling her social stats for a living. Better yet, her affinity can influence mana, divine power, and spirits, not just living creatures. If she develops it far enough, she might even help purify the corruption. For now, though, Habiol reaches Avent's enormous adventurers guild. She cautiously opens the tall doors and checks that she is in the right place. One look at the huge reception hall and all its patrons confirms it. A cheerful welcome catches her off guard and pulls her attention toward the counter. The receptionist introduces herself as Tia and formally welcomes the new hero to the Avent branch. Habiol can only stare at the gorgeous elf, while her chat collectively loses its mind with her. Tia explains that guild members can accept requests and receive beginner support, so Habiol signs up immediately. She quickly fills out the parchment under her registered name. Once that is done, Tia hands her a large supply bag containing an appraisal scroll, starting money, and access to a subspace tattoo inventory. The rest of her beginner gear is waiting at the nearby stations. Habiol thanks the pretty lady, which earns her a delighted barrage of head pats. As Ji-woo continues flying over the Pack City, everything seems to be running smoothly. Down below, Tia is already thinking that Habiol is so adorable she wants to bully her a little. She even imagines reducing the poor girl to tears and wonders if every summoned hero is this cute. She has, however, not met the hardcore gamers yet. Tia barely has time to wonder what that means before a giant barefoot slams into the guild. A massive pink-haired player wearing almost nothing announces his grand arrival, calls the world boring, and demands noodles with bamboo leaf wine. The patrons are understandably alarmed. Tia just stares, unable to process whatever character build walked through her door. She desperately tries contacting Ji-woo while two attendants drag the player away as he keeps demanding a waiter and complaining about the lack of content. Ji-woo does not answer. It only gets worse outside. Nearly naked players stampede through Avent, eating request forms, rolling down stairs to search for secret passages, and arguing over who is their big sister or mother. One troublemaker even earns the title prankster for flustering Tia. It has zero effects, but that is apparently enough encouragement to target her with more pranks. Before long, Tia is scratched, battered, and kneeling on the floor with a weak laugh. Clenching her clothes, she vows to survive long enough to see how these heroes end up and watch them cry after finally breaking. With that deeply concerning goal in mind, she decides their childish tantrums are somehow tolerable. Outside Arzilan, the truth explodes across global news. FS Games really created a virtual world. Lee Jinwoo's silence suddenly makes sense, and explanations and apologies start pouring in as the world order shifts overnight. Handel goes as far as publicly bowing and apologizing for doubting Jinwoo, posting excessive attack videos, and crossing the line. He promises to reflect. Foreign networks launch emergency specials as Arzilan becomes an international crisis-level story. Companies start studying the new market too, because everyone understands the same thing. Join the Arzilan economy now or get left behind. 1 week after launch, Jinwoo walks into FS Games and casually greets the employees. They immediately point out the latest advertising trucks outside. The displays are basically religious petitions begging the so-called God of creation for grace, more soul links, and an end to the price hikes. Han Yong-sun can only laugh because another whole fleet of petition trucks has shown up again. Jinwoo explains that everyone at the company, even the youngest employee, has turned off their phone. People will not stop calling to beg for soul links. Production is already preparing the second pre-order round with 50,000 units, and that number may rise even further. Jinwoo figures 50,000 heroes should be enough for the first corruption subjugation, so it is finally time to build the operation up properly. He orders the team to begin the main story update, and the office erupts when Han realizes Prince Leon is finally joining the story. Within seconds, the staff are pitching Leon keyrings, acrylic stands, body pillows, figures, and pretty much every piece of merchandise they can sell. Some of them already want their own. Back in Arzilan, Jinwoo uses Leon's artificial body and studies the armored hero in a full-length mirror, wondering if the guy is really that popular. After inspecting that blonde face up close, he has to admit Leon is ridiculously handsome. Iris walks in and dryly accuses him of getting drunk on his own reflection. Jinwoo nearly jumps out of the body and tells her to knock next time. Ignoring that, Iris launches into acting practice and addresses Leon as a sorrowful traveler burdened by a tragic past. Jinwoo has no idea why she is suddenly role-playing. She answers by shoving him toward the mirror and forcing him to practice with the face everyone will be watching. Iris demands the wistful gaze of a traveler walking a tragic path, while Leon sweats under the pressure. Eventually, he nails the full tragic hero look and asks, "Will you listen to my story, hero?" Iris approves and orders him to remember that exact feeling. Exhausted, Jinwoo changes the subject and asks if there is a nearby hunting ground where the heroes can level up. Iris knows of nothing close, though there should be plenty beyond the corrupted lands. That means Jinwoo needs to borrow something from a certain man. He walks out, leaving Iris completely confused. Soon, Jinwoo stands with his staff before the vast corruption, where enormous smoky faces and claws surge through branching violet lightning. Jinwoo heads straight into the corrupted territory, pushing through as the corruption closes in around him. Even after all this time, the place still creeps him out. Still, nobody comes to greet their guests, so Jinwoo raises his staff and gives the place a little knock-knock. The blast tears straight through the ground, with the high-tier spell doorbell. Subtle as always, right on cue, the corruption starts gathering around him. Its ruler appears, laughing that Jinwoo didn't need to throw such a violent tantrum. Then the master of corruption asks if the archmage finally came back to surrender his soul. Jinwoo hasn't forgotten what this thing did to Ella's priests and paladins. It shredded their souls, corrupted them, and chained the remains to its core as mindless slaves. He fought it alone once before, and after one long, brutal battle he lost. The monster reminds him of that, and claims his barrier won't last much longer anyway. Jinwoo just smirks, because for something calling itself the master of corruption, it's honestly pretty pathetic. The thing is still chained to the center of its own territory. Maybe after consuming more land and leveling up, it could escape. Right now, though, it has zero chance. That gets the monster furious, but Jinwoo didn't come all this way just to roast it. He's looking for something nearby, and scattered through the corrupted settlement, he finds exactly what he needs. Goblins. More specifically, level 10 corrupted goblins that have been completely consumed and now hate everything alive. The master laughs, since killing anything inside its territory is pointless. No matter how strong Jinwoo's magic is, the creatures will regenerate, and that would be true if Jinwoo planned on fighting them here. Instead, he plants his staff and activates a massive spell formation. Blue-white lightning spreads across the entire settlement, locking onto the scattered goblins and nearby corruption. Jinwoo raises 2 fingers, and the goblins are swallowed by the magical field. A huge spatial gate opens above the territory, and the master immediately recognizes the cheap trick. Jinwoo explains that he's borrowing its creatures and tells it to keep replenishing the stock. It's not like the thing has anything better to do. Oh, and the master itself has been cast as Arzilan Saga's first mid-boss, so it had better put on a good performance. With business handled, Jinwoo turns toward the gate before remembering one last thing. Since he borrowed the monster's property, it's only fair that he repay it, so he flips it off and tells it to keep the change. The master completely loses its mind, and chases after him, promising to tear him apart as Jinwoo escapes through the gate. Over in the forest, Namgungsamayan, Buldajang, and Sion accept the new goblin subjugation quest. Finally, a proper RPG mission, and Tia even claimed the goblins could drop a super rare sword. Now they just need the enemies to spawn. Instead, unnatural darkness spreads through the forest, which already feels a little excessive for beginner goblins. Sion looks up while her chat guesses that a boss is spawning and agrees this feels extremely ominous. Then something huge steps out of the darkness, as a whole pack of muscular corrupted goblins charges them with crude weapons. The party immediately questions why these supposedly ordinary goblins are built like elite monsters. Their massive leader answers with a roar. Namgungsamayan still calls it a low-level mob, draws that huge black sword, and promises to finish it in 3 moves. The goblin launches itself at Namgungsamayan before move 1 can even happen. Its speed catches the swordsman completely off guard, and one hit sends Namgungsamayan flying. Buldajang fires back with a huge spiraling fireball, blowing up the entire area. He starts wondering if that actually worked, only for the surviving goblins to rush through the smoke and knock him aside too. Sion moves in with her bow drawn, asking if everyone is dead while more goblins close and below her. Their heavily armored, red-eyed leader emerges at the front, making it very clear this is no normal goblin. It attacks Sion from above while 2 others charge from below, forcing her to leap out of the trap. She twists through the air and unloads glowing arrows at all 3. That's when Prince Leon appears beneath her and greets her like this is just another casual reunion. With the same calm smile, he asks if she's hurt. So before Leon starts casually breaking the internet, let's look at luxury watches like Rolex, Porthier, and Omega. Those things are basically tiny precision machines, where every gear has to move perfectly or the whole flex falls apart. And that is the idea behind Prince Leon's body. Iris built this man like a handcrafted masterpiece, stacking flawless enchantments on him so even dust is apparently not allowed near his royal face. He has perfection, radiant halo, lingering fragrance, and 21 more effects running at once, because subtlety left the room. So when Sion looks at him, she is basically staring into an expensive holy flashbang. Chad immediately catches her drooling, and she has to yell at herself to get it together. Leon crouches down and checks if she is hurt, which only makes the chat worse because she is already malfunctioning. She says she is fine, but Leon casts healing magic anyway. Golden light wraps around her, and now the viewers are losing it because apparently this pretty boy NPC can heal too. Sion realizes she was not injured, but the spell leaves her feeling weirdly refreshed. Right on cue, Audrey Rice drops 100,001 with a confession for Appa Leon. The stream instantly turns that donation into a reaction mission, so Habiel has to do 10 winks while trying not to die from shame. Leon just watches this tiny emotional disaster unfold in front of him. Then he checks her head and decides she must have heard it, while Sion panics because no, that is not the problem. More donations start piling in, with one viewer offering even more if she actually goes through with the next bit. Leon narrows his eyes and Jinwoo decides, fine, maybe he can tease her a little. Then the Archmage reward system pops up and raises the mission to 5,000,001 for the bunny reaction. At that number, Sion folds instantly, and does the Habiel bunny pose in front of Leon. She keeps going with the full bunny routine, hopping and throwing up peace sign ears while her dignity exits the server. Afterward she covers her face and begs Leon not to look at her, while Jinwoo quietly confirms that capital is terrifyingly powerful. Leon stays perfectly calm and says her head needs temple treatment, so they should move somewhere safe first. Later that clip becomes the platform's #1 scene of the year, with Habiel's post blasting past 300 million views. Once the public execution is over, Leon leads Sion through the forest, and she still catches herself admiring his back. After a bit, Leon senses they have reached a safer spot. He turns around, tells her they have arrived, and politely warns her to watch her step. Sion answers as Habiel and thanks him for worrying about her, while barely holding her composure. Chat notices she gets tongue-tied around beautiful people, then points out something important. Leon has no player info window. Leon says the goblins should not be able to follow them this far, and Habiol accepts it. She bows, thanks him for saving her, introduces herself, and he introduces himself as Leon, a traveler. He explains that he is investigating corruption around the world, and corrupted monsters have started appearing near Avent. Avent's mana barrier is still holding, but Leon says something shady may already be starting, and confirms the purple goblins are corrupted forms. At the same time, Jiwoo uses Leon's eyes to properly assess Habiol. Her special notes show a whole trail of connections, from Anna's bow to Harris's lodging voucher, Tia brushing her hair, Aina recommending the guards, and even Namgung Samayan's rejected friend request. That A-rank affinity is looking huge. So Leon admits his strength alone is not enough and asks Habiol, as a brave hero, to help subjugate the corrupted goblins. The main quest appears as Leon's request, the approaching conspiracy. Difficulty is very hard, it needs at least 200 people, and the rewards include unknown rewards, Leon affinity plus 20, and a main story unlock. Sion lights up because she finally got a main quest, until she sees the part where she has to gather an entire subjugation squad. She wonders if she can really pull 200 people together when everyone else is already busy gathering herbs, traveling, or doing their own early game grind. But since it is Sir Leon asking, she decides she is doing it. They seal the request with a handshake. Habiol grabs his hand with both of hers and promises she will do her best. With her first mission handed off, Jiwoo keeps piloting Leon and rushes straight to the next group, promising to cover them. He jumps into a hunt where 2 huge winged monsters are closing in, and the heroes thank him for the save. Then he helps with herb gathering and praises one hero's haul so hard the guy practically ascends. After that, Leon starts handing out sacks of potions and supplies as thanks to the heroes. Some players worry he is giving away too much, and will have nothing left. Leon just smiles and says it is fine, because they are the heroes who stayed. Stories about Leon's good deeds start flooding the community, including one post from someone who left their room for the first time in years because they thought of him. That purple-haired player says Sir Leon called her a hero, so she wanted to try being brave like one, and finally opened the door to her mother. Her mother hugs her while crying, and the girl breaks down too because watching her mom blame herself had hurt the most. Now in Arzilan, she decides to get a job, pay off her loans, and help the future new heroes who arrive after her. Back at FS Games, Jiwoo sees the morale spike and figures the subjugation squad should gather faster than expected, so he decides to speed the plan up even more. He returns to the magic tower in his archmage form, and from his face, this is not a casual check-in. He enters the chamber where the temporary control device is waiting, with Iris already beside it. Iris greets him, and says he has arrived. Jinwoo asks about the device, and she reports that it is perfectly connected to the magic tower, so they can control the details from their side. The temporary core crackles with energy, and Jinwoo says he can feel the corruption core beyond it. He figures that if goblins start showing up more often, the subjugation squad will come together even faster. So he orders Tia to bring Hazman, Halan, and the major NPCs. Tia agrees, and Jinwoo starts explaining why he needs them. With the nastiest little smile, he says it is their turn to become goblins. Kim Jinwoo calls Haolan and Hazman in for work, but the first problem is that both of them get way too close with those villain final boss faces, so he tells them to back up and sit down. Once they settle in, they ask what Arzilan needs, and Jinwoo says Iris left that part for him to explain once Tia gets here. Except Tia is already there, because apparently everyone in this tower has mastered jump scares as a lifestyle. She leans in looking completely dead inside and asks what is going on, and Jinwoo reacts like he just opened a horror game by accident. So now he has to scold her too, because personal space should not be this hard for grown fantasy NPCs. But when Tia crashes onto the couch, Jinwoo realizes she is not just being dramatic. She looks absolutely cooked. Tia explains that the magic tower keeps handing out pointless titles, and the heroes at the guild have started farming those titles by messing with her. And by messing with her, she means they are doing censored nonsense right in front of her, and even stealing censored stuff from her. So yeah, the player base is thriving. Jinwoo tries to laugh it off and asks her not to burn precious mana stones on that, but Tia gets in his face so hard he instantly apologizes. Then he checks on Haolan and Hazman, who somehow look just as traumatized while sitting perfectly still. Haolan says heroes get suspicious the second they see his face, even when he is doing literally nothing. Hazman has the same problem, because players take one look at him and decide he has to be some twisted goblin mastermind. So when Jinwoo finally gathers the major NPCs and tells them the actual plan, the room goes silent in the kind of way that says nobody likes where this is going. Tia asks why nobody warned them, and Iris calmly admits she wanted to see their reactions herself. Jinwoo quietly files that under things Iris would absolutely do. Then he brings out a small controller-like terminal and hands it over. Tia asks what it is, and Jinwoo explains that it lets them control corrupted goblins so the Earth heroes can gain real combat experience. The idea sounds awful to Tia at first, because she thinks they are being forced to pilot disgusting monsters just to get stomped by players. But Jinwoo says this is needed to speed up the subjugation squad. Then he clears up the important part. The ones getting stomped are supposed to be the heroes, and since those heroes resurrect, the NPCs do not need to hold back. Jinwoo even decides to test it himself, casually muttering that the heroes are dead meat, which is not exactly the comforting tutorial voice. The controller is simple enough, but Tia still asks how it works. So Jinwoo gives them the gamepad breakdown. Left side moves, right side triggers actions, and the magic tower handles the tiny movement details in the background. To make it easier, he pulls up a magic screen for the test run. Tia grabs the controller with both hands and nervously tries the input. The goblin actually runs, and now the whole system proves it works. Jinwoo watches them pick it up fast, while Tia immediately starts thinking about how to provoke the players into gathering a massive subjugation squad. Hellon asks if this is fun, and Tia admits it is not bad because apparently controlling an idiot however she wants has been on her bucket list. Jinwoo passes controllers to Hellon and Hasman too, and both of them accept way too smoothly. One has free time, and the other says strategy is his specialty. Before long, Tia, Iris, Hellon, and Hasman are all locked in, learning jumps, movement, and combos like this is a raid night. They even start laughing together while roasting whoever they are controlling or fighting, and Jinwoo just watches this rare teamwork happen in real time. Then he quietly activates a recording spell through his eye. Because for once, these people are not glaring, plotting, or collapsing from stress. They are actually having fun together. So Jinwoo saves the moment as his phone wallpaper, because even an immortal archmage can be sentimental. Back on Earth in Lee Jinwoo's body, he looks at the photo with a small smile. His plan is simple. Once the players clear the corrupted goblins, the invasion by the forces of corruption becomes public, and main story episode 1 officially begins. At dinner, he thinks the second Soul Link sale should land right alongside that main story reveal. He makes the decision so sharply that his hand hits the table beside the spoon. Unfortunately, his family reads that gesture completely wrong, and the whole dining table freezes. Now everyone is sitting there in awkward silence like Jinwoo just declared war on soup. The chairman leaves, the others drift out too, and Jinwoo gets abandoned at the table. He is left holding his spoon, sweating, and wondering what exactly just happened. Over in Avent, the goblin subjugation recruitment is already exploding, with players shouting for tanks and volunteers piling in. Because the Adventurers Guild request is live, Abiol streamed it, and now everyone wants in, even while some poor guy is crying over the herbs and meat he lost. Jinwoo returns to Arzilan and sees the square going completely off the rails. He has no idea how the situation escalated this fast. The answer is currently falling from above with a giant weapon. In the fight, the controlled goblins call in Tyrus for support, and Tyrus answers with actual magic, dropping a fire spell right into the chaos. Buldajang barely holds on and realizes the players are not fighting normal low-level mobs anymore. These goblins can cast. Another goblin dives between two armored adventurers and splits their formation like it has PvP experience. And behind the scenes, Tia is laughing into the controller, absolutely loving every second of it. Jinwoo finally finds the source and sees Tia, Iris, and the others celebrating a clean combo like they just cleared a boss. Tia notices him with that dazed gamer look, still happy, still holding the controller. They all look exhausted, but the purple aura says they have been playing nonstop and enjoying it a little too much. Jinwoo tries to convince himself they are helping the heroes train, not tormenting them for sport. Then someone announces they caught another foolish hero, and Jinwoo has to admit it. Yeah, they are absolutely tormenting them. He also notices the goblin info has changed, while Tia keeps playing and casually tells her targets to die. The system now identifies the level 10 corruption-tainted goblin as Red Ribbon Hero Slaughterer, with a combat log full of defeated players. That title is not for decoration either. The goblin is standing over a pile of fallen heroes, and people start wondering how many it had to beat to earn that name. Then Iris tells Tia it is time to do that, and Tia instantly remembers the really important part. The goblins start teabagging a fallen hero. The watching players recognize it immediately, and the outrage hits critical mass. Tia leans all the way into the villain role, taunting them like they cannot do anything to stop her. Jin-woo can only ask where she even learned that kind of provocation. Still, he has to admit the method is working. The heroes get fired up instantly, weapons raised and pride fully activated. Thanks to that, the subjugation squad forms way faster than expected, with Leon, Habiel, the hunter captain, the female knight of light, the veteran knight, and a full crowd of fighters ready to move. Prince Leon steps forward and says this is where things really begin. Then he smiles at the assembled squad and asks if they should go.